All right, spoiler talk. All right, so the way that we are going to frame this conversation is kind of the way the movie is set up. The movie is broken up by the different horses names or monkeys names or aliens names. So each of those sections are doing a lot of things. So we're going to kind of break up our conversation by that. Agreed? Does that sound fair?
I'll tolerate it for now. I'm just kidding. That sounds perfect, Jace.
Got to give you some rails to rein you in.
I love it. I want you to tell me because I feel like I have so many thoughts about this movie. I'm going to need it. So thank you. I'll let you lead.
All right. Well, let's just start with the title card, which is the quick little, I don't know, 60 seconds of Gordy on a massacred movie set.
Here you go, Gordy. Happy birthday.
Don't need to spend a lot of time on this, but I just want to say this, I think, is the most jarring opening I've ever experienced in a movie. Like, I came in with the trailer information. I'm like, all right, there's aliens in this. And it just opens with a monkey covered in blood. I thought the first time watching it, it was like an animation for like the production company. Like that was their logo.
Yeah, Monkey Paw Productions. It goes right from that, and you're hearing the monkey noises, and you're like, "Is this still part?" Because some of those, like some of those fucking like production company logos, animations, they get like. There's that whole fucking Family Guy skit about it where he's like, "Oh, the movie's starting," and he's like, "Oh no," and he's like, "Oh, we're in the desert," and he's like, "Oh no, that's another production company." But like, they're so convincing that they look like a fucking like scene from a movie, and I'm like, they do. So I couldn't tell for a while, and also like this movie from the trailers, total misleading, obviously. I mean, it's a little bit misleading, but
Yeah.
you're thinking aliens, flying saucer shit.
Yeah.
And it opens with, yeah, like a fucking monkey trashing a set on a TV show from like the 90s.
Yeah.
And it's like covered in blood. And I think it's really jarring, but then it's like he manages to like horrify you. And like the very last scene when the monkey like looks directly at the camera,
That is terrifying.
looks directly at your soul, like through your soul. It was like a really upsetting seeing that.
There's very few times where like I watch something and I just like get the chills.
Yeah, total chills moment.
When the monkey looked at me, I'm like, I'm gonna die right now.
Yeah, that monkey's coming through the screen like fucking the chick from The Ring. I was ready to like book it. That thing was horrifying, and it's like covered in blood, and it's just so great because it also does like have a fucking quote from the Bible as well at the beginning about I will make a spectacle of you. So I mean, come on, people. It's all about spectacle. I think we can all agree on that from the
Yeah.
beginning. But yes, extremely jarring. And you're
Yeah.
like, huh, like that's all we get. We don't know who's involved. We don't know how the fuck this. And then we cut to
Ghost.
Ghost. That's the first title card.
Yeah. So it goes from Nope, and then we get the ghost segment. And so for me, this segment is really just establishing all of the characters, all of the relationships, and just a little bit about like what is going on in this world. And so yeah, like we get the scene of the dad dying randomly, and
Keith David. I was like shocked to see him go so quick.
yeah. But I saw him, I was like, oh, I didn't even realize he was in this movie, but like he must be in it for a while. Nope.
Nope. There's a lot of nopes in this movie that are great.
No.
Nope.
Nope. Nope.
No. Nope. Nope.
Nope.
And so yeah, like he dies in this really bizarre way, and then his son takes over, and like the whole scene of them going to,
The hospital.
well, I was gonna say the movie set,
Oh, the movie set. Sorry.
and like that's where we really start getting the first like tones of the whole animal thing.
The horse wranglers.
Yeah. Also, incredible decision to name the main character OJ.
Yeah. Obviously it was on purpose. There was like little quotes in there like throughout the movie when she's like, OJ, he's on the run, he's going, he's doing it. And it's like those are literally direct quotes from the OJ, like when everyone was watching the OJ chase, what they were saying on TV. So it's like they're doing that shit on purpose. It also feeds into like we love a fucking spectacle.
Yeah. Well, and then also like their reaction to his name being OJ, and it's like he shares the name, I guess, but like that doesn't mean that he is OJ or like is a killer. Like you shouldn't be scared of him because his name is OJ. Like
Yeah, but you know what? People are fucked up.
yeah. But yeah, then there's like that whole scene where like he is trying to tell people like horse needs a break. We're not ready to do this. Don't look him in the eyes. Hey, don't do that. Don't do the loud noises. Like all that stuff. And like all of that is going to tie in through the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that you don't notice that. You think like the horses have a very specific purpose throughout the movie as a plot device, but you
Yeah.
don't realize that they also like the nature of the horses and like his relationship with horses becomes so important.
Hmm.
I do love that whole part, and I think my favorite is like when one of the guys from the set, he's like, "Can you tell the horse that we're just going to do one and then he can take a break?" It's like, "Yeah, okay, let me tell him that." Nobody has respect for animals, and that's another big part of this movie is respecting nature.
Yeah. Well, like, yeah, the first time I saw this, I did not pick up on the ongoing theme of like arrogance and like
Mhm.
people knowing they know better than other people. And like you have this guy who trains horses, knows everything about horses, but you don't listen to him. Then when the horse freaks out because of the stuff that you were told not to do and then kicks the thing, they're like, "Oh, it's a problem. It's a broken horse. You're out of here." And it's like maybe you should have just respected the person that told you the things to do, especially when Keke Palmer is introduced and like she gives the great "Let's have a good time." She's so great.
That's why back at the Haywood Ranch, as the only black-owned horse trainers in Hollywood, we like to say since the moment pictures could move, we had skin in the game.
I'm obsessed with her. I've always loved her in everything. I think she's like maybe one of the most charismatic people in the entire world. I thought like it was so funny how different her and OJ are, the energy, and I was like, how is this gonna work? But it works fucking perfectly.
Yeah, they nailed it. Well, and then we meet Jupe.
Oh boy.
Another thing I totally just like didn't pick up on the first time I watched it. It was just like he had been buying the horses, and then when OJ is like, "Hey, can we talk about a plan for us to buy the horses back?" Like he's like nervously like, yeah," and because he's been feeding the horses.
He doesn't have them.
But like, yeah, I'd never noticed that. So like the second time around, I'm like, oh,
Yeah, that's a fun detail. He also, in that same scene, he says, yeah, feel free to look around. Su casa es mi casa, which means your house is my house. And normally you say mi casa es su casa, which is my
mhm.
house is your house, but he switches it because he's also trying to buy their house. It's like it's all little things like that. This is why people you need to rewatch it if you're still unsure about this movie. Go back, rewatch it. You're gonna love it.
Yeah, and his character,
Stephen Yeun is great.
yeah, Stephen Yeun, he's the character on my rewatch that I loved way more than I did initially. The first time I watched it, he was that storyline because there's so much going on with it. That storyline to me seemed like I feel like this could have been cut out. But then on the rewatch, I'm like, oh, this is so important to everything that they're doing in this.
The movie actually started with that whole sequence with Gordy. The
Yeah.
Gordy sequence that I mean, I know that's literally like the opening of the movie, but like he started by like that was the first thing he created and that was like I think the first thing that they shot,
Oh wow.
which is insane. But yeah, I think because he's associated with the Gordy monkey storyline, people are kind of like, I don't get why Jupe's like such a big character for the first half. You know, they're like, it
Yeah.
doesn't. He's kind of a big question mark, but I think he plays the role perfectly. And when you like rewatch it, it just really hits different.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's legendary. Legendary shit.
So we've now met all of the characters. We have the relationships established. Then we get into Clover.
Almost all the characters. We haven't met Angel yet.
Oh,
We haven't
yeah.
even mentioned my
Yeah.
favorite, one of my faves.
We're about to meet Angel.
Angel baby. 5 stars, Angel.
So Clover, the next section to me, this is really this is now setting the stage for the alien. Also, this is the thriller part of the movie.
Like signs a bit more at this part, or like early on when the shark's attacking in Jaws.
Yeah, so this is where, you know, he sees the alien, and then he talks to Angel, but I mean, what a brilliant like use of the alien, and just like seeing it barely for a second, and just like you see it for a second. Like if you're watching this movie and looking at your phone, you're gonna miss a lot of stuff. You're muted.
I was taking a drink. Excuse me. I just don't want to gulp into the mic. But what I was gonna say is that whole sequence, like I just feel like there's so many great little shots of it moving between clouds like very quickly, and the way that the camera moves with it, it's like it feels so real because it's like, how could it not be there? Fun fact as well, all of the nighttime scenes were shot during the daytime.
Mm,
Yeah.
really?
Yep. Pretty fucking cool, right? They did that because it didn't matter because they were going to be digitally replacing the sky to like for the special effects with the creature. So they were like, fuck it. And it was just like easier to like, and then they relit it and did all this stuff. It's pretty incredible. And I think it also worked better with the IMAX cameras because it's Hoyt von Hoytma, I think is the cinematographer. And he's the one who does like all of Christopher Nolan's movies. He's the one who did this movie.
Oh,
And that's why it's like it first one shot like on film and like IMAX. It's crazy.
that actually makes a ton of sense, because when I was watching it, I was thinking, I was like, this has to be the most like beautifully lit nighttime
Yeah, they're very unique.
sequence ever. Like, it's like, how much money did they spend like having all those lights at night for this desert? Like, holy shit.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it was a lot easier to shoot it during the day and then relight it, and it didn't matter because they were like replacing the whole sky, so it was just perfect.
Wow, that's super cool.
I love those little facts, and that like I need to buy the Blu-ray. Apparently, if you buy that, there's a 1-hour making of documentary. I'm just quoting some stuff from it, but boy, am I gonna buy that.
And then we meet Angel, and they go to Fry's, and R.I.P. Fry's is a great electronic store. But like that was just a fun little thing. Like, Fry's don't exist anymore. What
Yeah.
alternate universe is this?
It's a fun thing, fun little throwback.
But yeah, and then they introduce the idea of the Oprah shot, the impossible shot, and like that's the thing that they're trying to achieve. And this lines up really perfectly with Keke Palmer, and like she has all of her side hustles.
Yeah.
And she's like trying to just, get famous, and it's like she gets that shot and then instant famous.
And also it's like it's true because if you think about the impossible shot, it is like without a doubt proof of like aliens that like couldn't have been faked, that like isn't shitty footage, because everything that you've ever seen in like whatever, it always is fucking shit. You
Yeah.
never have good quality. And I love that like as they're trying to get their shots, sometimes like they get really shitty versions of it that you're like, that would work because that's like all that we have. This is not the
Mhm.
Oprah shot. And like establishing that you just know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love it. And I love the introduction of Angel.
Yeah.
Brandon Pereira is like just a real shock. He came into the movie hot and I fucking loved him. He was hilarious.
First time watching it, I was like, oh, this is a fun little character. I didn't expect him to be in the whole movie, and I'm really glad he was. He
Yeah.
was so funny though. Like, he comes out to do the installation. He's like,
Her name was Rebecca Diaz. Keep an eye out for her. She's an actress, model, She booked a pilot on the CW. So, yeah, fucking left me. Yeah, fucking CW.
fucking CW.
Yeah, so good. He's really funny. I love him for like comedic relief, and I think like him and OJ's interactions are pretty funny just because OJ just gives you like barely anything, and I love it. I do feel like if I'm still comparing it to Jaws, Angel is like Hooper. He's like the scientist guy who comes from the Oceanographic Institute, right? And he's like he has his knowledge of how, and he does. Angel has like a little knowledge of aliens, and he's into this shit, so
Mhm.
it works. I think he's like the young hot guy who comes in with all this like knowledge, but he's also kind of like unexperienced and has no idea what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, I think it's a fair parallel.
And I would say that OJ combined with M are like Chief Brody. There are
Yeah.
Chief Brodies of the thing. I'm just bringing it back. I'm gonna keep it going every time we introduce new people.
Yeah. So then the other thing that happens in Clover is one of the scary scenes. The aliens, the little
In the
aliens.
barn.
That scene, I was like, "Oh shit, this is Signs all over again."
It was exactly Signs. Like they captured exactly what was. I mean, do you remember when Signs came out and that scene where the alien on like the fucking like the video footage
TV.
of the birthday party that they're watching and the alien just walks across the screen? You were just like, oh my God, like it was
Yeah.
so terrifying. Like I'm sure that people watch that now and go, that's not that scary. But it's like it fucking terrified all of us. This had the same fucking energy.
Totally. And how nothing happened necessarily quick. Like the aliens move really slow. And it's just like, oh my God.
And they look exactly like what you'd expect, like from fucking creepy ass aliens.
And then nope. It just walks away.
I do love his nope, like
Yeah.
nope, and then he still does try to record it because he's like, well, but it's a lot of money. It's our fucking like need for a spectacle, like going against our survival instinct.
Well, and then like I was expecting kind of a jump, but then like you just see the big head just slowly come out the side. Like it's all so slow, and it
So
was like,
drawn out, really stressful.
this is really stressful. And then he turns around and he punches the alien.
And then it's the kids.
It's the kids.
I love that because it's like totally like that's what you'd expect from this movie is that the UFO is a UFO ship and there's little aliens on it. And they were so creepy. Those kids are the greatest actors of all time. They're Jupe's sons, apparently. But fun fact about the little alien costumes, you can tell, like, because they have like alien masks, like they're selling at Jupe's like little carnival place.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell just from like how they look that they're like shaved like Gordy costumes. Like he had Gordy costumes because he was like profiting off that whole thing, and they shaved him on the face, and like it's
Oh,
an ape face, but it's like shaved, so it's an alien.
interesting. I did not notice that.
Another little detail, dude. I swear to God, I'm probably not even. I'm getting like a quarter of them, but I mean, again, I'm trying to keep it under 4 hours.
The other.
A tight 4 hours, I think, is going to be fine.
So yeah, so then we get the scene where we actually see the alien like do its thing. It's gliding around and it sucks up the horse. You know, like we get all that stuff. And then we also learn that Angel is just watching over all their stuff when he's not supposed to be. But yeah, like that whole scene was really good, and you know, especially they realize that it's like in the clouds.
When you realize that the one cloud isn't moving.
Yeah, and so then they're watching over the whole thing, and you know, we hear the screams earlier on, and like it's all stuff that like we had no clue what was happening.
The radio at the very beginning of the movie, it says that the missing hikers. And then you
Oh,
hear the screams over them like throughout the movie at the beginning, and you realize, oh, that's the missing hikers. They're in there dying slowly. We'll
yeah.
get to that in a moment because that's going to be my favorite part.
And so then the last little piece of this part is that they reach out to the cinematographer,
Antlers Holst.
and he's not interested. He's got a lemon tart that's ready to rock his world.
And watching videos of predators eating each other.
Yeah. And then they intrigue him with they're trying to get the impossible shot.
According to American Cinema Magazine, you make the cinematically impossible possible. Well, we're looking for the impossible shot.
That's impossible.
So then Clover ends. The last line is somebody says something about a flying saucer or an alien ship, and then OJ is like, it doesn't move like a ship.
What if it's not a ship?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit. What? That's like the huge twist. And then it leaves and goes back to Gordy, and you're like, what? And then that's why the Gordy thing is right there. It just is perfect.
It really is. And like those dots to me weren't connected until the second watch. And it's like, oh, this is a creature. This is an animal. It's not a ship. There's not little men in there.
it's like the UFO is the alien. That's just the coolest twist I've ever thought of, because I thought, it's weird that he's doing aliens. I love aliens, but it's also like it's been done so many fucking different ways and different times. It's incredible that he was able to pull off something new and unexpected. Because wow, did you have that in any corner of your mind when you were watching this?
No, I 100% was with Angel. I'm like, this is a ship. We're going to see little
Little
like,
guys,
what
yeah.
are these little creatures going to look like?
Yeah, or even if they're like like big, like the fucking like xenomorphs. Like I
Yeah.
don't know, but it's not gonna be good.
So yeah, so then it cuts to Gordy. And so for me, like this whole sequence, more than like telling us more about what happened, like I think we all know what happened. It's reinforcing the themes of respecting animals, creatures, arrogance, all that stuff. It's reinforcing all that stuff and setting the stage for people or humans to make the same mistake over and over again. And that's what we see is like we see the scene that they were shooting and then the balloon and then the loud noises. It scares Gordy, freaks out, and that's what triggers him. And so it's like we had this situation with the horse at the beginning of the movie where they scared it. And it's like this happened years before this. Did we not learn from this?
No, and the best part is that it shows with the scene that immediately follows that Jupe not only didn't learn from it, he might have learned. I think he did learn something from it, but he learned the wrong lessons, basically.
Yeah.
Because as you like go through the Gordy scene, and I think earlier they like shoot back to it where like you find out that Jupe was like the only or like the main. I think the girl survived, but she's like pretty fucked up. But he survived, and he was sitting under the table fixated on her shoe that was like standing up impossibly, because weird things that like people fixate on weird details during events.
Mm-hmm.
Not that this happens all the time, but like in crazy traumatic events that tends to happen. I think that's why that was there, because people are like, what about the shoe? And that's why he has it on a shrine at home. But it's like most people might feel like I was really lucky, and like I think he does feel lucky, but I think he also feels like I had a special bond with the monkey, and that's why I'm alive. And like that monkey respected and loved me, and like I could tame it. Basically, it wouldn't have hurt me, but I think what you're really, when you see the full sequence, you're meant to see the real purpose is that he doesn't actually directly look it in the eye. He's like looking at the shoe. He's looking through the tablecloth, not
Mm-hmm.
directly at it. And I think because he was fixated on that, that's why the monkey didn't go crazy and even signs to him at the end. And what he signs is what happened, family. And it's like
Mm.
so sad. And then he goes in, I think it's because he goes in for the fist bump. And then when he's about to do it, and then he gets shot. And
Yeah.
so he thinks like, wow, this monkey really liked me. He wasn't going to do it. But I think the monkey just didn't understand what was happening, because it's a fucking monkey. It should never be on a set like this. This is insane that people ever did that.
Yeah, well, and they tell us in the early horse scene, like, don't make any sudden moves, don't do have any loud noises, and so like the balloon pops, the monkey freaks out, everyone else starts freaking out and running around,
Yep.
and so Jupe is sitting there still, not looking it directly in the eye, like looking at the shoe, and then it's also it's got the tablecloth, so he's doing all the right things.
He has no idea that he's just doing the right things. He's thinking it's for other reasons that he's surviving, and that's the great part about it, is that plus it's like that between this scene and like when you see what really happened, and like that poor like his co-star Mary Jo. I mean, that poor girl, I think we can agree is like the worst life ever. But like she gets fucked up. Like that thing's like eating her face.
Yeah.
And he's just like freaked out. Like he looks like he's traumatized, right? But then like when he's telling the story later on, and he's talking about the Chris Kattan thing, like from
Yeah.
SNL, the sketch, and he's like, he's just killing it. It was just legendary shit. And you're like, yeah, this guy fucking didn't learn a thing. This guy was like, it was cool. Like it was a cool thing that happened to me. You can just tell from the way he even describes the skit and how he doesn't feel like this is fucked up. He has this weird, creepy shrine. Like he's obviously, I want to pitch this to you. I think he's the mayor from Jaws.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, he's the reason that we have the problem in the first place.
Yeah.
And the reason that we're not going to do anything about it for so long, or that he is like sticking around and even having a fucking territory.
Yeah. Like one of the themes I took away from Jupe and the whole Gordy situation is that just because we experience something doesn't mean that we learn from it. We don't learn the lesson that we need to.
Sometimes you learn the wrong one.
Yeah, and so this is just like this reoccurring thing of making the same mistakes over and over again. Like people made mistakes with Gordy, and then Jupe is now making the same mistakes because arrogance. He thinks that he understands better than the people before him. He thinks he has a connection.
Yeah, he thinks he has a connection. He thinks he can tame a predator. That's a big part of this movie is you cannot fucking, like OJ says later, you cannot tame a predator. You can enter into an agreement with one, but you have to know the rules. It's like little things like, yeah, you don't wear red around a bull. Like Jupe has no fucking idea. He thinks he's like Jesus and he can just like, oh yeah. But also, I mean, he does kind of think that he's talking to like the audience is what he calls
Mhm.
the aliens. But yeah, the Gordy sequence is very like horrifying too, because it goes on for a while and it's like pretty upsetting. But you get it and you feel bad for the monkey.
Yeah, the one of the notes I had here was just like this whole scene is just like haunting.
Yeah, very haunting.
Like it's just the mood, the vibe. Like there's nothing necessarily scary that's happening, but you're just like, this is very, very upsetting. Like this is bad.
I mean, if I was Mary Jo, I think I'd be horrified and terrified. I mean,
Yeah.
basically, that poor girl gets her face eaten off. But yes, then it's great because it's like the two most like harrowing scenes come like back to back.
Yeah. So now we get to Lucky, the next segment. And this is the section where the creature is fully revealed.
The Star Lasso experience. And it is my favorite scene of the entire movie.
Why? Tell me why.
It scared the shit out of me. And it's like just watching it in the theaters, I could not like, so basically before like I tell you like why it's so important, but he tries to do the same shit like he did with Gordy and he causes another Gordy kind of situation. And he had to invite the same girl, Mary Jo, back again
Mhm.
to experience it all over again. I mean, it all connects. It's pretty great. But he has invited all these people to see the aliens because he's been feeding them a horse every Friday. And so he basically, the alien gets pissed because OJ and M, they had given it a plastic horse as a test with like balloons hanging from it or like a streamer. And so it was really pissed because like it didn't like that. It got jammed in its windpipes. So it comes back for the show. It comes back early. And it basically everyone looks up at it and they realize like it's not a UFO ship. Like that's a fucking mouth. And it sucks up everybody from the audience.
Now sit back, stay in your seats, and enjoy the Star Lasso experience.
My question to you here, right, really quick, is when Jupe is like looking up and realizing what's happening, do you think he's like, couldn't tell if he was like happy or like terrified, like, oh fuck, like he realized what he did wrong? I couldn't tell because it's like he almost looks like he's like, oh my God, I don't know. He's like amazed.
I think it's a combination of him being awestruck, like what is going on, but then also you hear all the people screaming around him. So I also think there's like terror and realization of what he did because I think he is seeing the bodies fly up there and then he gets sucked up.
Because that's the cool part is that you don't see like everything. They really stay in on Jupe while everything's getting sucked up. And that's one of the reasons that I love it is like, I think this is a reason why most people might hate it is because they're like, Jupe is like framed as like a main character guy and nothing happens after he dies. Like he dies and that's it. But it's like, not even that. When they get sucked up, then you realize that it's a creature and they get sucked up into like its esophagus and like this woman we follow like just screaming and it's all like gooey and like I mean in the theaters I couldn't breathe that
Yeah.
whole scene as it goes on for a minute and it was just so upsetting and like disturbing to me that it turned me on. No, I'm just kidding, but like you know what I mean, as like a movie and a horror fan it did. Like I was like
It was
wow,
effective.
it was effective as fuck and it still gets me. Like it's like a word, it felt like what we never got to see from Star Wars with the Sarlacc pit. Like that's what I
Yeah.
would imagine, right? And I was
Yeah.
always like, that sounds gnarly, but like they never show it. this felt like it, and it was horrifying. And then the fact that you're like at least on multiple watches, you're like, oh, that's when you hear those people screaming. They're in that thing for like who knows how long.
Yeah.
Just like, I mean, it's the worst scenario. You can't even kill yourself.
Yeah.
And then that woman finds the like plastic horse, and you're like, oh God, or is it a dead horse? People still argue about that.
Well, that scene in particular, it reminded me of a movie that like my siblings all liked growing up. And so like I was probably way too young to see it, but it's called Fire in the Sky. And there, like that whole movie is this guy gets abducted by aliens. You don't see it, and so the whole movie, like he's trying to tell people what happened, and they're like, I don't think it happened. I think you went crazy. And then like something happens that like triggers a PTSD, and like he faints, and then we see the vision of what happened, and like him getting dragged through the spaceship, and then like aliens doing all their alien stuff, and like the visual of it just like immediately reminded me of that.
Gross.
It's pretty wild.
I've heard that. I'm like, I don't know if I can handle that movie, but now it's like my morbid curiosity because this scene was like the most upsetting when I saw it the first time, and now I'm like, it's my favorite. Like I get excited whenever the Star Lasso experience, the whole thing. It's so great, and I just feel like Steven Yeun's performance in that last moment is just epic. It is so good.
Well, and then we also learn that it's Jupe's fault that all of this is happening because he said every Friday for the last 6 months, and
Mm-hmm.
then the dad died 6 months prior. So
Yeah.
it's like, you motherfucker, you're the reason for all this.
That's the reason why it's acting territorial, and it's like feeling comfortable, like because at the very beginning of the movie, when it's like the dad dies, you don't see it. It's very high up in the clouds, so that's like 6 months ago. So you can tell that it was like either hadn't met Jupe yet or had just met him, and
Mhm.
so it's like not super comfortable, but throughout the movie it gets very comfortable with exposing itself. It's also very much like Jaws, where they don't show the shark for a long time. Granted, there's different reasons, obviously. They had
Yeah.
the effects set up, ready to go. But I love that. And I think that like that's the right lesson to still learn from Jaws, even though it wasn't on purpose, is that the less you show of it at the beginning, the more mysterious it is. And then when they show it, yeah, I think it's still horrifying.
The funny thing is that I think Jordan Peele learned this lesson before any other shark movie has.
Oh, none of this is the Jaws sequel that we were promised and never got. I will say that forever about X with like Texas Chainsaw, and I
Yeah.
feel like that this movie is like the spiritual successor to Jaws because people have tried and never been able to recreate the magic of Jaws because it's not just a fucking creature feature. That's the best part.
Yeah.
And that's why this movie is really different to me,
100%.
even though it's a lot like Jaws, but I think it's a pretty unique fucking film.
And so then right after that, I mean, this is still in the section or the same segment, but I call this the horror part of this movie. Like,
The Shining.
yeah, like this is the blood rain scene. And
So horrifying.
the visual for that, this whole sequence is just incredible. And then like learning that they shot it during the day, and then you tell me that, I'm like, that makes sense as to why everything is so clear. And like I don't need to turn the brightness up on my TV. It's just like, oh, I see. Oh, wow. I see everything. It's
This is like, I'm like, more people, like, I mean, if you compare, like, watch this side by side with like the fucking Winterfell battle in Game of Thrones, you're like, I can't see shit on that one. I mean, granted, I know like there's got to be specific settings for my TV, but like this one is like, they should have been doing this shit. If you shoot at night, we really can't see anything.
funny how that we haven't learned this up until this movie that, oh, you can shoot during the day and then you can just edit it to be
Maybe
at
not.
night.
I mean, I'm sure that they probably not everybody gets a Jordan Peele budget from Universal Studios.
That's true. Yeah, that whole scene was just amazing. And so yeah, they have that whole thing, and so yeah, OJ sleeps in his car the whole morning or
Nope.
all night.
That's my favorite part when he's like, or not my favorite part. Obviously, we know that's Star Lasso, but I love when he like looks out the door and sees it above him, and he's just like, nope, nope. Because I love that because that's what you always want to yell at fucking horror movies. You're like, don't go out there. What are you doing? I want somebody to look at danger and go, nope, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna risk it because I'm like that just felt. I mean, I knew that was what we were gonna get in this movie just from the title, but I loved it.
Well, and then we learn we learn that again that it's a creature. If you look at it, then it will come for you. But just like any other animal, like you don't look it in the eyes.
You don't threaten it.
Yeah.
Just like a normal predator. It's pretty great. And I love that he like has all this horse knowledge. It all comes back. And it's almost like this movie could have been called Don't Look Up as well.
Yeah. And this is just a side thing. I thought it was so funny that after that whole thing, they go back to Angel's
Yeah.
apartment and like they just go full escapist. Like they put VR headsets on and just smoke a bunch of weed. And they're just like, I don't know how to deal with what I just saw. So
OJ's sitting there thinking about it, but like Angel's just like fucking smoking hella weed and he's got the VR set. But yeah, it's just like, fuck it. I need to get hella high. I mean, that was traumatic. They're like, him and her are like in the house and it's like raining down all the objects. And then like they hear the screaming for so long, which I think is the most upsetting part. It's
yeah.
like, who the fuck is that? That's when you're like, dude, this is worse than I thought.
So then we cut to the final segment, Jean Jacket.
I love that name for a fucking creature or just like any in general, an alien name. Jean Jacket is great.
It was great.
I did also forget to mention that my favorite music is I do love like always there's some really good music drops in Jordan Peele's movies and I loved the slowed down sunglasses at night. It was super creepy when you slow it down like that. It was excellent.
Yeah. So now, now they're setting up for the climax. Like we've learned everything. We know all the rules.
The cinematographer has arrived with his non-electrical camera, and then we get the
Let's
best.
go, boy!
Didn't I tell you this motherfucker was gonna come up here with a non-electrical camera? Let's go, boy! Yeah!
Best high five of all time in cinema history, like 5, and it's like the most energy that you see from Daniel Kaluuya from the entire movie. Even when the aliens like look at him directly in the eye, he's like
Oh,
no energy. Like that is the most that he is in this movie.
it is impossible to not laugh at that scene.
It's so
It's like
good.
Keke Palmer just brings it. She's like, "Let's go, boy!"
So good, and the fact that they nail every high five. But that whole sequence is like very much like the 3 guys on the water in Jaws. They're getting ready. They've got all their little things. They're like, even when he's like, the reels of the camera is just like fucking Quint with like the reels on the like fishing lines with
Yeah.
the, it's just great.
Yeah, and the setup, like their plan, I mean, it's brilliant. Like, and it's interesting. Like, oh, we get all the car guys, like, and that's how they track it. And I thought that was all just great and like well thought out. I'm like, they did not need to think this out as much as they did, but I really appreciate it. It's great.
And all the little balloon guys, like those are all practical. So those are all real. Even though they were interacting with CGI stuff, because obviously the
Yeah.
creature is not real. But I thought that was pretty cool.
And then I love the little TMZ reporter.
And it's like real, dude. I've heard from like that people have said like TMZ guys, it's like I don't care what the situation is. Like you're fired if you don't come back with the shot. They're like, it would be like I'm about to die. Like, give me my camera. I need my camera.
I just love the setup. Like he comes up and like the music and everything, he's so menacing. Like he's the final boss. And then there's like, oh shit, it's TMZ. Guys, it's TMZ.
Yeah, it fits in with the spectacle thing, man. It
Yeah.
all fits. It's crazy. But yeah, you're like TMZ, what the fuck? But I mean, I just love it. The fucking like it's his helmet that's so like intimidating, it kind of seems like, but then his voice is like such a dumb idiot.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, just seeing him like when he's like going against like where Jean Jacket's coming with like the non-electric force fields and then he like gets hit and it's like "Ah!" and his like motorcycle like flips. Pretty great.
My favorite thing about this final sequence and like how they take down Jean Jacket is that it fits in line with this theme of people not learning the lessons that from the experiences that they have. The whole point of Jean Jacket is that you can't look at him. And part of the problem is people have to see it to believe it. And but then also just lining up, like, even seeing something doesn't mean you actually learn from the thing that happened. So it's just like it's kind of like this paradox of like people have to see it to believe it, but even if they see it, they might not believe it or see it for what it really is. And so then we're just making the same mistake over and over and over again. And I'm just like, what a brilliant like loop that you tie into a Jaws type movie.
It is. It's like Jaws, but with a little bit more of a message. I mean, I know that movie has some stuff to it too, because obviously it's like the corrupt government is like the reason that the fucking Jaws is having a fucking field day out there. But you know what I mean? It's like I totally agree with you. The way that he just it just is perfect.
Yeah. And then to go back to what you said early on of watch this on the biggest screen you can when the creature unfolds,
And you see its final form.
you're just like, whoa, it's like
Holy
this is
shit.
huge.
Yeah, it's like way bigger when it like unfurls. It looks like a giant like jellyfish sea creature kind of a thing. Like you don't know what it's almost beautiful and
Yeah.
it starts like I mean, so that's like the little like square thing that comes out of it, that's its eye. And it looks like a film lens. It's wonderful. But it like
Mm.
starts flashing bright colors and shit when it's threatening.
Like other animals
A
do.
lot of predators do that. They'll change colors or like octopuses or like octopi, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Um, they do that as like to be threatening. So I thought that was super cool. It all fit in. And like people, I don't know, people got upset, I think, because they were like, well, it didn't fit in with like the treatment of the animals that they should kill it at the end. But I'm like, it's the same thing with Jaws, dude. It's gotta go. This thing was gonna kill everybody. It was Jupe's fault. We gotta put it away. And also, remember how many fucking people it killed horribly? I think this thing has earned it.
Well, and I think that's the big difference between Jean Jacket and all the other animals that we've seen up to that point. Like the other animals aren't predators. Yeah, like monkeys aren't predators. They eat plants and stuff, but monkeys can be violent. Like they can attack. Horses are not predators, but horses can hurt people.
They're dangerous. Yeah.
So like that, I would say that's a big difference is that Jean Jacket is a predator, and now that it's in this now that it has a territory, it's going to protect that territory and it's going to kill everyone. And like that's why you have to take care of it. Like
I'm like, yeah, with people, I'm like, what do you think they're gonna come to an arrangement and go, okay, you can have Tuesdays and Thursdays, but we get every other day. Like that thing is like, this is my home now. Who knows where the fuck it came from, but it's not like you can go, hey, you got to get out of here. Like they
yeah.
had to kill it. There was just no other way. And I love that it like parallels with like it's not just Jupe because it's a giant Jupe balloon that she lets
Yeah.
go, but it's like the balloon is what starts with the Gordy thing. And that's what scares him, the popping of the balloons. And then Jean Jacket swallows up the balloon and then it explodes, which the explosion is literally exactly just like Jaws when the shark explodes at the end. And the way that M is acting at that very end when she like freaks out and like gets all excited, like,
Yes! Yes! Nobody fucks with A-Wood, bitch! Nobody! Damn it!
so good. And it's just like fucking Chief Brody at the end of Jaws when he's like just last shot, like trying to fucking do whatever and it works.
Yeah.
So good.
I also really liked that they paid off her little monologue at the beginning of the movie and her listing off all of her side hustles, and one of her things is like motorcycle riding. It's like
Yep.
she was really good at riding a motorcycle and like doing that drag stop. I was like, it's like, did she just like learn how to do this? Nope. She said early on she was a professional motorcycle rider.
Yeah.
I like that payoff.
It's from some like animated movie, Akira.
Yeah, that movie's
Okay.
wild.
So yeah, it's from that. And anyways, but I did want to say, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but a lot of people will think or have mentioned about the ending. They were debating like, did OJ and Lucky get eaten? They thought that they got eaten when like he's like looking it in the eye to distract it so that she can use the electric motorcycle and get out of there. And that they get eaten basically. And then when she sees him at the very end and it's like all dusty, that it's like his spirit and like he's dead, right? And I'm like, first off, they never established like force ghosts in this fucking
Yeah.
world. That would be a lot to like throw in at the end. And second, when the thing like eats the balloon, it doesn't do so in its like beautiful form. It like grabs the balloon and then turns inside out back to the
Yeah.
UFO shape in order to eat it. So that's like number one clue. But I thought that was a funny thing because that never even crossed my mind when I first watched it or on any rewatch since. Did you ever have that thought?
No, I never thought about it. And the reality is that it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter, but also it would be it's
It would be
stupid.
a
There's no
weird
way, yeah. They wouldn't just do that as a throwaway thing of like, "Oh yeah, he's a force ghost." It's like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
And the horses too?
I think he made it out because all he would have to do the whole thing is he's distracting the jean jacket. All he has to do is just take the hood down, and then it sees the balloon and like he's good. So yeah, I agree with you. The last little thing, and this Sarah actually pointed this out to me first time we watched it. So it ends with her getting the Oprah shot, but then you see in the background all the reporters show up and they're getting footage of stuff like that. And Sarah was like, I wonder if that is supposed to kind of be symbolic of like the first thing we learn in the movie about the black man riding the horse, and
And
that
not getting any
this
credit.
guy did all the stuff,
Yep.
but then it was someone else who got the credit. And they're like, I wonder if that's supposed to tie back to that, because then we don't see what happens after.
But you're left with that question.
Yeah, I was like, that totally could have been like what it's supposed to be. Like they did all the work. They were their stunt people, the actors, but then somebody else is going to get the story.
I mean, I will say they were getting footage of it like falling out of the sky possibly, and like hers was like pretty much way better, but again, totally could have gone the other way, and that's what I feel like it just fits with Jordan Peele's movie since he had talked about ending Get Out with like the cop showing up and arresting him instead of like it being like his homie from the TSA.
Yeah.
So like that would have sucked, but it's like would have been more realistic maybe. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, maybe these fucking like people did get fucking footage. I mean, who knows?
But yeah, this movie was it's so good.
I'm so glad that you also love it. I've talked to like a lot of the people I'm close with, they all loved it, but like I've seen like some people that I'm like, "Oh my god, you did not like it." I think they just need to watch it again. I think that's the real thing.
Yeah. I think, from Get Out, and I didn't see This Is Us, so I still need to watch
I mean,
that.
Us. This Is Us
Oh,
is a
that's
drama on
that's the
NBC.
yeah, that's the terrible ABC show. Jesus, not that.
Nothing to do with fucking Jordan Peele. I just want to get that out there.
This Is Us is a true horror story.
People love that show, dude. I don't know.
I know.
But yeah,
Hot
Us.
take.
You haven't seen Us?
No, it's been on the list, but
Oh my god, I own it on Prime. Go watch it right the
okay,
fuck
okay,
now.
okay.
I'll calm down.
I think from Get Out, like, I was expecting this to be a movie a lot about racism, kind of like
Mhm.
Get Out had. And this movie has some racial stuff in it, but it's more so about all those other things. And I think that kind of surprised me at first. And that's my own fault, thinking that Jordan Peele can only does movies about one thing.
Well, you've only seen one movie of his before this, so that makes sense. Versus, like, I mean, I know a lot of people didn't. For some reason, I just found this out that a lot of people didn't like Us. I fucking love Us. It really is like a little bit more like Nope, where it's harder to kind of figure out exactly what they're trying to say. But it's like it's definitely got a really cool like kind of thing like Nope, but it's just a harder to read message than Get
Yeah.
Out. I think that's why everyone loves Get Out. It's just because you're like, okay, I know exactly what they're doing, but also it's like still very clever, right?
Yeah.
Us and this one, they're a little bit harder to figure out. You got to kind of like do a little bit more work, but they're also paced a little slower, not as tense. But personally, I think I think he's just getting better.
Yeah, this is a movie that I feel like every time you watch it, you'll just pick up something a little bit different that you didn't have the last time. That's what makes it a great rewatchable.
This is like this is now my favorite movie of all time. And for a long time, a very long time, at least 10 years, it's been Jaws. So
It's high praise.
that's high praise. That's high praise.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. We out here.